No one ever expects the moment their entire reality snaps in half, but mine did. The second I realized the man I loved wasn't just disrespectful, he was performing my humiliation like it was a sport. And the worst part? He genuinely thought I'd smile, swallow it, and thank him for the lesson. I didn't recognize that version of myself anymore, and I refused to ever be her again. The pattern with Malcolm began so quietly, I didn't even notice the shape of it at first. 3 months ago, every time I questioned something, anything, he brushed it off with the same smug line: "Relax, it's just a joke." September was the first real crack. I asked him not to flirt with girls at parties. Nothing dramatic, nothing controlling, just a basic boundary. Malcolm laughed, loud enough for everyone near us to hear, and told his friends I was obsessed with him. Dean, Randall, and Curtis erupted like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. After that, they started making these pointed little comments about clingy girlfriends whenever I walked into a room, deliberately smiling at me like it was some private joke they were all in on. Malcolm escalated quickly, almost like he wanted to see how far he could push before I snapped. He'd dance with girls at bars, then look at me from across the room with this deliberate smirk, like he wanted to watch the exact moment it hurt. He'd give his number to strangers right in front of me, then later twist himself into knots explaining how normal social people act. Every time I confronted him, he rolled his eyes and made me feel insane. His friends backed him up like some warped choir repeating the same lines. "It's just dancing. She's overreacting. She's too emotional. She can't take a joke." And just like that, my hurt became comedy for an audience I never asked to entertain. Then came Curtis's birthday party, the night everything detonated. Sabrina, Malcolm's ex, showed up in a tight red dress, her hand glued to his arm before I even stepped inside. Malcolm had sworn for weeks they were just being friendly, but seeing the way she touched him made my stomach twist. Sabrina knew exactly what she was doing. Malcolm knew exactly what he was doing. And Dean and Randall, they positioned themselves like paparazzi with front row seats, phones out, ready to capture whatever joke Malcolm planned next. The place was packed with people from our college and nearby schools. Malcolm had been drinking since 8 p.m., and the more he drank, the more he pretended I didn't exist. Every time I tried to join the group, he turned his back or changed the subject like I was some stranger trying to force my way into a conversation. But at 11 o'clock, everything reached its breaking point. Malcolm slid his hands around Sabrina's waist and pulled her tight against him. And right there, in the middle of the room, in front of his friends and mine and half the damn school, he kissed her. Not a quick peck. A full, slow, open-mouthed, hands all over her body kind of kiss. Then another, and another. Dean and Randall started chanting, "She deserved it!" aiming their cameras at me, laughing like this was all part of their entertainment for the night. People turned to watch me. Some whispered, some laughed. Others looked uncomfortable but stayed silent because nobody ever wants to be the one to intervene. And Malcolm? He pulled away from Sabrina and stared straight at me with this disgusting grin. "Just a joke, babe," he said loudly, as if announcing the punchline of the sickest joke he'd ever played. Sabrina giggled and whispered something to him. He nodded, still gripping her waist like she belonged to him now. I walked out, through the crowd, through the stairs, through the whispers, and Malcolm didn't even follow. By the time I made it to my car, my phone buzzed nonstop. 15 messages in a row, every one of them blaming me. "You're ruining my night. Come back and apologize. Everyone thinks you're psycho. You embarrassed me. Stop being dramatic. Learn to take a joke." Not once, not a single time did he acknowledge what he did. I ignored everything, drove home, turned off my phone. But Sunday morning, that's when the real unraveling began. Malcolm posted 6 Instagram stories between midnight and 3 a.m. Videos of him grinding on random girls, close-up shots of their bodies pressed against his, captions bragging about freedom, about being single, about what happens when someone tries to control him. He tagged his friends in every single one. I didn't respond, not one word, which was Apparently, the first domino in a chain reaction Malcolm never saw coming, because when Malcolm finally knocked on my apartment door at 3 a.m., pounding hard enough to wake the entire building, drenched in alcohol and cheap perfume, reeking of entitlement, he crossed the final line he didn't even know existed. The pounding on my apartment door went on for 5 straight minutes, echoing through the hallway like he believed persistence could magically rewrite reality. When I finally opened it, Malcolm stood there swaying, eyes glassy, smelling like a bar floor soaked in alcohol, cigarettes, and 3 different women's perfume. His shirt was wrinkled, stained with something dark, his hair sticking up in chaotic directions. And yet, despite everything, he still carried that same smug certainty. "You're a psycho, girlfriend," he slurred, leaning against the doorframe. "Every guy cheats eventually. At least I did it to your face instead of sneaking around like a coward." He said it like he deserved a medal for honesty. I stepped back and told him to leave. His response? A loud, sloppy laugh. "You'll forgive me by Tuesday." "You always do." Then he added, as if twisting a knife, "Remember Christmas when I made out with your sister's friend? You cried for hours and then came crawling right back." He stumbled down the hallway, nearly tripping over his own feet, and drove away in a crooked, drunken line. And that was the moment, right there, when something in me snapped into perfect clarity. The girl he thought he knew, dead, gone, buried, and the woman standing in her place? She wasn't crawling back to anyone. Monday afternoon, Dean sent me a private Instagram message, a condescending lecture disguised as wisdom. "You're too uptight. Malcolm was teaching you about trust and boundaries. You should be grateful he cares enough to help you grow. Grateful for being humiliated in front of hundreds of people, for being publicly cheated on, for being turned into a spectacle." I deleted the message without responding. 20 minutes later, Celeste messaged me, Curtis's girlfriend, one of the few decent people in that entire orbit of testosterone-filled clowns. She'd seen their group chat, screenshots her boyfriend stupidly left open. What she sent me made my blood roar. 23 screenshots, all of them damning. Malcolm bragging about putting me in my place. Writing, "She'll crawl back. They always do when you show them who's boss." Randall sending laughing emojis. Curtis calling him savage. Dean insisting I needed a reality check. Then the cherry on top, Malcolm sending a shirtless photo of himself in bed, captioned, "Single life is treating me incredibly well." They weren't sorry. They weren't remorseful. They weren't even neutral. They were celebrating, like breaking me was some kind of sport. But the funniest part, they weren't just mocking me. They were underestimating me, because Malcolm's greatest flaw wasn't his cheating, or his arrogance, or even his cruelty. It was his belief that I would stay predictable, that I would stay broken, that I would stay the girl who let him walk all over her. He had no idea who he was about to deal with. Fast forward to Tuesday, his self-declared deadline. The day he predicted I'd crawl back, apologize, beg for his forgiveness. What actually happened? Nothing. Not a text, not a call, not a view on his story, not even a moment of attention. And that silence shattered him. By Wednesday morning, 17 missed calls, 43 texts. The messages shifted like a storm. First, "Hey babe, you're being immature." Then, "Why are you ignoring me? I'm trying to fix this." Then, this treatment is abusive. Stop punishing me." Then, "We're not breaking up over one harmless joke." Then, my favorite, "Sabrina meant nothing. It was drunk peer pressure." Every word screamed the same thing. He still thought he had power. Still believed he was the prize. Still convinced the world revolved around him. But Thursday? Thursday was when his desperation reached a new level. He showed up at my workplace. Miranda found me in the break room, wide-eyed. "There's a guy in the lobby pacing like a manic squirrel. He says he needs to talk to you." I peeked around the corner. There he was, Malcolm, running his hands through his hair, pacing like a caged animal, rehearsing whatever speech he thought would magically fix everything. When he saw me, his face lit up like he had just spotted salvation. "Thank God," he said breathlessly. "We need to fix this together. I've been trying to reach you for days. I told him we could talk right there in the lobby. Since he seemed to enjoy public scenes so much, it felt appropriate. His smile instantly dropped. Don't be like this, he hissed. You're being unfair. I came to apologize. So I asked, okay, what exactly are you apologizing for? His answer, I'm sorry you misunderstood my joke and got your feelings hurt. Not sorry for the kiss. Not sorry for the videos. Not sorry for the humiliation. Sorry I was too sensitive to appreciate it. Half the office was watching. Miranda stood behind the desk, eyes wide. Malcolm's voice lowered as his panic rose. He stepped closer. I'm not leaving until we work this out. But what he didn't understand was this. The old me cared about causing scenes. The old me cared about his feelings. The old me cared about fixing things. The new me? She cared about truth. She cared about consequences, and she cared about never letting a man like Malcolm dictate her worth ever again. What Malcolm didn't understand was that the moment he watched me walk out of that lobby, the story stopped belonging to him. He lost control of the narrative, the manipulation, the power. And once a man like him realizes he can't twist you anymore, he becomes desperate enough to try anything. He tried lying to my parents. He tried crying to his mom. He tried rewriting history to my sister. He tried showing up uninvited twice, but every lie he told cracked the ground under his own feet, slowly collapsing the version of reality he tried to force everyone to believe. He couldn't handle that I wasn't breaking. He couldn't handle that his manipulation wasn't working. He couldn't handle that I wasn't the girl he thought he trained into submission. But I wasn't just walking away. I was preparing the ending he earned. By the time Saturday arrived, Malcolm had convinced himself that I was finally coming back to him. He stood in his apartment doorway, smiling like he was greeting a long-lost lover instead of the woman he had publicly destroyed. He tried to play concerned, gentle, vulnerable, like he hadn't called me a psycho at 3 a.m. while smelling like cheap perfume and shame. And I let him talk. I let him spin his excuses. I let him pretend peer pressure was stronger than self-control. I let him blame alcohol, his friends, Sabrina, the moon, the air, anything except the truth. He enjoyed hurting me because he thought I wouldn't leave. Then I asked the question that made him light up with hope. The question he believed would give him his power back. Did he still have the videos? Of course he did. He couldn't resist keeping the evidence of his victory. So he pulled out his phone and watched them with me. Every second of him grinding on girls, kissing Sabrina, smirking at me, letting his friends chant like a crowd cheering on a public execution. Every clip, every angle, every humiliation he orchestrated. He kept trying to downplay them, but the videos didn't lie, and for the first time, neither did Malcolm. He admitted the plan, he admitted the pressure, he admitted the intention, and every word of that confession was being recorded in my pocket. When I finally showed him the recording, the color drained from his face like someone pulled the plug on his ego. The panic was instant, violent. He stammered, begged, tried to say it wasn't fair, but fair was never part of the deal. He made sure of that the moment he let his friends film my humiliation and laugh at my pain. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't call him names. I simply chose truth. I sent the group message to both our families with the video evidence attached. When the messages delivered and Malcolm realized what I'd done, he went from begging to threatening in seconds, but it didn't matter. His parents saw the truth. My parents saw the truth. Everyone who had been lied to finally understood exactly who he was. His father's disappointment landed like a hammer. His mother's shock was palpable. My parents' anger was justified, and for the first time in his entire life, Malcolm had to face a consequence he couldn't